Hello and welcome to the edition of Big Fish Small Pod. As always, Big Fish Small Pod is presented by MPT College Consulting. You can check them out at mptcollegeconsulting.com. And Marlins fans, here is another brand new episode of my series where I'll be conducting interviews regarding newest Marlins draftees. And on this episode, we will be discussing Michael Snyder, who was selected in the 10th round by the Miami Marlins out of the Oklahoma Sooners. And we'll be talking to someone who covers the Oklahoma Sooners in Josh Callaway from the Sooners Illustrated from 247. Josh, I appreciate your time to talk to me today.
Hey, man, no problem. I was kind of excited to get the invite. It's fun to talk about these guys like kind of one more time on the way out. And Michael Snyder was one of my favorite guys on the team last year. So good way to kind of send him off to the next level.
Yeah, so give us a little overview, a little profile of Michael. What can we expect? And maybe for those fans who maybe not have kept up with Sooner baseball, what are they getting with the third baseman?
Sure, yeah. Michael was a grad transfer to Oklahoma last year. So he played 1 year at Oklahoma. He was at Washington before. Had a whole career. When he transferred to Oklahoma, obviously any guy who's making a grad transfer move, you're expecting them to have a chance to have a starting job right away. Most guys are not going to make a move for 1 year if they're not feeling pretty good about where they sit in terms of seeing a lot of at-bats, one more season before moving on to the next level. And we kind of all, among Oklahoma knew it would be a nice pickup. He had a nice career at Washington already. Nobody was prepared for the year that he was going to have. He was Oklahoma's best hitter for a lot of the season. This was a really good Oklahoma team this year, a team that finished the season in the top 10, in the rankings, was a number 9 overall seed in NCAA tournament. He was a huge part of it, batting toward the top of the order, hit over 350, OPS over 1,000. Started the year playing a little third base, ended up playing a lot more first base as the year went on. Could easily play either, though. He's a very sure-handed fielder, got a really nice glove. Ended up playing a lot of first base. And, yeah, he swung one of the most consistent sticks for Oklahoma all season. And it was really, we all knew it was going to be a nice pickup, a veteran guy. This is a guy you can probably pencil and feel good about it. And he batted right at the top of the order, 3-hole, 4-hole, somewhere in there, cleanup. And was just phenomenal all season long. He's also great off the field, too. Quickly kind of became one of the leaders of the team. He was a huge add. I'm not sure if they have the season they did, which was a great season. Oklahoma won the Big 12 last year for the first time in program history. He was a really big part of it. And probably the funniest little quirk of his season was that he had 14 steals this year, which was a solid number. Oklahoma likes to be active on the base paths. In his entire career at Washington, 4 seasons before coming to Oklahoma, goose egg, not one steal.
Oh, wow.
And 14 steals this year. They just turned him loose, and he, rewarded that faith with 14 steals this year. So, yeah, he had a great season. Like I said, bat over 350, and he was a huge part of Oklahoma's team. Again, I don't know if they do have the year they have without him. He was a huge part of the squad all year long.
And how would you say that came for the Pac-12, now the Big 12, playing teams like Texas, Texas Tech, teams like that, teams that have this kind of like infrastructure and able to play this type of ball? How do you believe he went when he played this tougher competition? Not to say that conferences are different, but teams like Texas and different teams like that.
Yeah, like I kind of, halfway said, he was one of the most consistent bats all year. Like there really wasn't a whole lot of drop-offs. Kind of just the nature of baseball. Anybody who watches baseball at all knows in a length of a season, you're going to have peaks and valleys. But for the most part, Michael Snyder was one of the most reliable bats all year. It didn't really matter home or road, quality of opponent, the stage. Once I got into the postseason, the regionals and stuff. Oklahoma hosted a regional this year in Norman for the first time since 2010. Big crowds, a lot of pressure, and he was still great. He had a couple of really big swings in the tournament. I remember a big home run. Kind of can't remember which game it was, but he had a big home run in the postseason, I know. He was really good in the big spots. He didn't really shrink in the moment at all. Just a lot of hard contact. That was kind of the main thing. He always got good at bats with Michael Snyder. He had a very good eye at the plate. Like I said, you don't have the OPS over 1,000. He had a really good on base, drew his walks, things like that. So, but no, he always seemed to handle the moment and the pressure of our big rivalry series or whatever, Bedlam, whatever it is we had going on out here. Always really, really well. And he was a very mature player, and it didn't really matter to him the moment, the opponent. He kind of was the same guy all the time, which obviously really helps you in a sport like baseball.
Yeah, and just overlooking a little bit on his stats, we go a little bit on the offensive part of his game later, but I want to talk a little bit more on his discipline. I was looking up some of it. He had the most walks in his entire career this season at OU. Lowered his strikeout. His strikeout went from 43 this year. Last year was at 56, walking 24 last year to now 36. Talk a little bit about his discipline at the plate and maybe what some of the coaches tried to go with him in terms of when he did transfer to OU.
Yeah, that's a major credit to his development from, Reggie Willits, who's the assistant head coach out here, who's a guy who has a lot of MLB experience. He played in MLB for a while for the Angels, and he was with the Yankees under Aaron Boone as one of their bench coaches for a number of years before making the jump back to his alma mater, OU. And he's essentially he's the hitting coach. He's kind of, use a football term, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. But Skip Johnson, the head coach, is pitching guru. Reggie Willis he draws up the lineup. He's all offense, and he has, since he took over the offense, that's when the offense really took off, a handful of years ago, because of development stories like this. Michael Snyder had a nice career, a nice, handful of seasons way out west there in Washington. But, like we kind of said at the beginning of this thing, it just took off for him this year. His discipline to play. Like I said, he took his walks. He always was very within himself. A big part of Oklahoma, it's a very simple approach offensively, but it's something they preach over and over and over, is just separate balls from strikes. That's something that Skip Johnson says until he's blue in the face. That's their mantra when it comes to hitting, is find a good pitch and don't leave the zone. Like that's a huge emphasis in their development at Oklahoma. And you saw that with him. Like you said, his walk numbers were great. He really did a good job of punishing mistakes out over the plate, driving the ball into the gaps, and obviously over the wall quite a bit as well. So his hitting approach was among the most sound on the team. You always felt like you were going to get a competitive, good at bat when Michael Snyder was at the plate, which obviously he's a college player. He's a bit of an older college player going into his, obviously he's a grad transfer, but nevertheless a college player. You don't always get that by any means. And so he always had very mature at bats, and you could tell that his patience and his, vision at the plate was always a major strength for him.
Yeah, and with him, another strength that really showed up this year was his ability to generate power. Again, stayed with the same home run total last year, but had the most in terms of his triples. Had 3 triples this year. Last year only had 1. Doubled his hit from Washington to Oklahoma. What do you think was his? He in turn got that offensive power. What did he maybe tune into to try to generate that? And maybe you think he could play in pro ball.
Yeah, I think that vision certainly helps. Like I said, he does a great job at, finding balls out over the plate and punishing them. And, again, it kind of all works together. It's all, one thing leads to another, but always being in nice counts, because he doesn't leave the zone very often. He's able to get ahead in counts a lot, which certainly helped. And he just, I mentioned it earlier, but it seemed like there was not very often that you had a weak ground out for Michael Snyder or, a pop out. He just had a lot of hard contact, maybe as much consistent hard contact as I've seen over the length of a season from anybody at the college level that I've personally been around. I mean, it was just, you kind of always felt he may not get a hit every time. Certainly it's baseball, but he's going to give you a good at bat and he's going to square the ball up, and we'll see what happens from there.
Tell me a little bit, transferring from UW, just what did he bring from the Huskies to Oklahoma to bring that big season? Because he's going to do it maybe again here with the Marlins, going from one place to another. What could those players, or maybe what did he bring from Washington to Oklahoma to the younger guys and to the other players on the team?
Yeah, a lot. I said it a bunch of times over the course of the season, just kind of what a huge find, what a great find he was in the transfer portal for Oklahoma in just a million ways. I mean, he was obviously a veteran player. I talked about the kind of the maturity. He quickly became a leader of the team. It's a team last year that wasn't that young relative to some other Oklahoma teams. There was many of the guys on the team had been at least Oklahoma for, going to at least their second year. A lot of guys, third, fourth, older guys. And he still was quickly one of the faces, leaders, of the team. Tough stretches, meet the media, say the right things. He was awesome in that regard. And then obviously, just the player. I mean, he hit, like we said, over 350, he had power. He was really rock solid defensively. He started the year at third base. They ended up moving him to first base, and he was great over there as well. I originally kind of thought honestly, that there was a bit of a waste to take him off of third base because his glove was so good over there the first 10, 15 games. It felt like he made every play. They had other good third base options, so they felt like their best defense was to have him at first. But then it translated over there. He was great over at first base. I mean, he's a really good defender. He, like I said, he was great off the field. One of my favorite guys to talk to on the team. You always kind of knew that he'd give you a very candid, honest answer, but he also would always say the right thing. He's never going to, coaches didn't have to worry about him behind a mic, either. So he was really, I'd love to, not that I would just rip him if there was true, but there's really not a lot for me to complain about with what he did in his 1 year at Oklahoma. He was an awesome get off the field, certainly on it, playing every game. He was a huge pickup for Oklahoma last year, and he was a lot of fun to watch, do his work all season long.
Well, we just hit the 10-minute mark. Josh, I want to thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it, coming on and tell us maybe a little bit where these Marlins fans can find you if they're a little bit interested in some OU sports and athletics.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's any Oklahoma fan, Miami Marlin fan crossover, Oklahoma.247sports.com is our 24/7 Oklahoma Sooners site. Obviously, all the football, basketball, everything. But I cover baseball for us. And so if you're a college baseball fan interested in what's going on with Oklahoma during the spring and early summers, head on over there and check us out. All
right. Well, Josh, I appreciate taking your time. I wish you the best of luck, everything going on, OU, yourself, and I really appreciate it. You're welcome back on anytime. Maybe the Sooners come down to Coral Gables, catch a game there.
Yeah, 100%. Any future guys get drafted, feel free to hit me back up.